It's me, Kayla Engerman, your fantasy girl, here to take you on my fantasy football journey this season as I try to win my league and prove that no one knows anything at all whatsoever about this game like they pretend to, and appearing so is just a, say it with me, fantasy. You know what they say, when God closes a door, he injures a player on the team of the person who closed the door on you. And I have had sweet, sweet justice. Let's go through last week's injuries. Yes, Cannoli is singing my praises. That's my cat. So first we have Travis Kelce, who was questionable when he was drafted. That's why Eric Ziwak claims he quote-unquote fell to him. Then he's proclaimed out. He's a late scratch for the Chiefs. And so Eric Ziwak had to get another tight end for this first week. That's comeuppance number 1. Comeuppance number 2, Cooper Kupp. He's now on IR, which is injured reserve, and he's going to be out for at least 4 games, baby. And I was like, that's so sad for Cooper Kupp. I wonder whose team he's on. Whose team is he on? He's on Nick McGee's team. Next, Monday night, the LOL of my life. Aaron Rodgers carted off the field in the first 10 minutes of the game, and I was like, OMG, baby, whose team is he on? Albeit he's on the bench of Mr. Eric Ziwak. And now we have a new traitor in the mix, Andrew Wood. Innocent man, until I asked him if I could have Tua on the Dolphins as a new quarterback for me. And I said, in exchange for Christian Kirk or Jerry Jeudy, 2 fine wide receivers. I said but I was willing to give and. And he said, I want Calvin Ridley. Now, if we were to go back to like bartering days and make this analogy akin to that, I basically went to Andrew Wood and said, hey, I have 2 cows that I'm willing to give you one or both for that nice, fine horse. And he was like, you want this horse? I want to sleep with your wife. And I'm like, whoa, that wasn't even on the table. And he's like, and I want your estate, your social security number, if that even existed in this time. And also, I want to adopt all your kids, and you pay for them. Now, when you act as asinine as a one Andrew Wood, the Lord will take a razor scooter to your top running back's ankles. And that's exactly what happened to Austin Eckler. And for a double dip of sweetness, guess who his backup is? Joshua Kelly. And guess whose team Joshua Kelly is on? He's on Mommy's Big Spanking. That's right. So don't you dare even think about it. Don't even think about touching this narrative that is unfolding before our eyes. Wow, I'm really going long here. Okay, let me get on to Emily. But TLDR, Jesus is on my side. Our next guest is Emily Levine. She's the other woman in our league. The only girls in our league are me, Alie, and Emily. Story goes, I was the only woman in the league. There were 10 of us. And everyone was either on the side of we want a 12-person league or we want to keep it at a 10-person league, which is relevant because if you have 12 people in your league, then it's really hard to have a good team because there's just less players available. The draft is harder. I'm in a 10-person work league. That is so easy. They're going to hate this when they hear it, but it's so easy for me. It's not a challenge. Plenty of players to pick up when there's injuries. The draft was super easy. Like, I'm queen of the castle. However, in this league with my college friends, the one with Emily, there were 2 teams of people who wanted it to be a little bit harder with 12 people, or they wanted it to stay the same and keep it easy at 10. So, me and Alie and Emily saw this as an opportunity to get them in the league. And so all summer we tried to drive a wedge into the commissioner, Matt Jadis, and make him feel like he was a misogynist if he didn't let us in. And we planted those seeds and we chipped away at his soul all summer long until one day we were at a brewery and I forget if others joined me, but I filled up a whole glass of water and I threw it in his face And he said, fine, they can be in the league. And so now we have a 12-person league. I'm a feminist, etc., etc. On that exact note, I asked Emily, I was like, what can I promote for you? And I was like, actually, I'm going to promote you. Emily is a 28-year-old, single, gorgeous bombshell living in Brooklyn, New York, and she has a badass job that she loves. She bakes like you cannot believe, and she's the friend that will call you out on your bullshit whether you like it or not. So if you're a single man who's charming, funny, and a little bit nerdy, you hit me up, I'll hit her up, you guys will have a date, and it will be freaking unbelievable. You would be so lucky. All right. Now that you know how great she is, let's hear what she has to say about this week. Yeah, like Sky Moore. You gotta get him out of there.
He shit the bed big time. So gotta probably get him out of there. And then actually I was thinking about what you talked about last week on the podcast about having to like running backs from the same team, because Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier both put up huge numbers this week, and they're on the same team, and I have them both on my team, but I had Algier on the bench. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. Algier is what
Algier. I don't
know. But yeah, I had him on my bench, and he got 24 points. So I don't know. It feels risky to put two teammates on my roster on the same position, but I got to look into their opponent this week and see what is more expected of them before I make a call, but I'm considering it.
Well, here's the thing. I had the same question. I put in Christian Kirk per Kenton as my flex, and he is a wide receiver just like Calvin Ridley. This man got me like no points. What did he get me? Christian Kirk, 1.9 points. And so I was like, okay, now I know why it's frowned upon. And also, fuck Kenton.
I mean, he did kind of advise you not to do that, if I'm remembering correctly.
He didn't advise, period. He was so wishy-washy. And Alie beat him in a landslide.
Yeah, it was a beating.
Yeah, it felt good. Especially because my whole strategy has just been like, do what the numbers say, and I'm sure it'll be fine. That's what I did. However, I am going to start going off more vibes because...
Yeah, it's so satisfying when you watch all these boys who have been watching the games all summer and reading the blogs and listening to the podcast, and they strategize based on their own, what they feel is like their expertise, and they all just got a whooping this week. And it's like, by people who are just like, yeah, this seems good.
I love that you said whooping. They got a whooping.
They did. That's what they got.
You might say they got a spanking.
You might say they got a spanking.
Looking through this week, like, all the guys who lost are the ones who talk a real big game.
That's right.
About studying, kind of across the board. Not all.
I mean, don't all of our friends talk a real big game?
Not me. I'm very subtle.
Right. That's what you're known for, is your subtlety.
Mm-hmm. I need a new quarterback.
Well, who are the options to pick up?
Okay, here's the thing. I know that you're really proud of everyone not having drafted Deshaun Watson.
Don't do it, Kayla.
Don't do it.
I put in a waiver for Deshaun Watson.
Are
Kayla,
you kidding
you
me?
are such a hypocrite. You are the biggest
What happened to the Women's Alliance?
I'm still in the Women's Alliance between us three, just not the women that were
not the
victimized.
women overall of the world. You're not in that alliance.
Listen, this is a case of the Dark Knight of like, you only live. What's that quote?
Yeah, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Seems that day has come for you.
We
Kayla.
literally were sitting at the restaurant this weekend, like, wow, so proud of us, so proud of our friend group for placing our principles, even in a silly little game of fantasy football, placing our principles
My
above
number one rule in the
game.
draft is no abusers on my team.
Well, I drafted Alvin Kamara, who is literally not playing for the next 2 weeks because he's a bad boy.
What was he suspended for?
He's a bad boy. Let me look up what they both did.
Isn't it like assault or something?
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara, crime? Question mark. Battery resulting in substantial bodily harm and conspiracy to commit battery.
Kayla said, I want that guy on my team.
Matt really was egging me on. He was like, do you want to win? And I was like, yeah, I want to win. I'm like Marty McFly in Back to the Future, like, are you chicken? Nobody calls me chicken, Matt. Nobody. Okay, so now we're searching Deshaun Watson crime. Oh, no.
Kayla.
Before his suspension, 24 civil lawsuits were filed on behalf of women alleging Watson sexually harassed or assaulted them during private massage appointments. Oh.
Kayla, this was like the story of the year last year. You cannot draft him.
Yeah, you're actively choosing to put a predator on your team.
I have a suggestion, is that you go for the hottest player in the league as opposed to the most abusive player in the league, and you pick up Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, Jimmy G. That I can
I
support
mean,
100%.
Is he going to get you the most points? Maybe not. But you'll get to stare at him every week, have your eyes glued to that screen.
Why don't you let your horniness guide you instead of your rage and see how
I normally do.
That's not true.
That is true. What?
Yeah.
Oh.
You do too. You do too. Don't you sit there like you don't.
I'm cool as a cucumber.
I'm not. I am not cool.
It's called
I know.
meditation, therapy. Sometimes you just have to let yourself rage. I'm all for letting yourself rage and feel your feelings. But then after like a week or two, you got to move on. Or else you'll go crazy. Also, there's new things to obsess over.
I'm Italian. I'm mad about things that happened before I was even born to people who I've never even met.
I'm Scottish. I just push that shit down.
I was trying to think of a good line to say. I'm Jewish. But I couldn't finish the line. I just worry. Can you just believe that we are 3 grown-ass women on a podcast having a conversation about some boys running with a stupid ball down a stupid field?
Wow, that's so embarrassing.
It doesn't pass the Bechdel test either.
It doesn't
Not even
pass
close.
the Bechdel test. Fuck.
Let's talk about a woman real quick.
AOC. Love her.
Love her. Great lady. Make sure that stays in the pod.
Okay, but listen, I decided while you two were yelling at me about Deshaun Watson, I removed my waiver for him and I put one in for Jared Goff because he's on the Lions and they did really, really well.
They did, yeah.
They proved that they were going to be...
Beat the Chiefs. That's no small feat.
Oh, no, don't frame it like that. Now I feel like I'm cheating on Patrick.
I think you're fine.
I'm more upset about this than having drafted a 24 civil suit alleged.
Oh,
I'm
my
kidding.
God.
Okay, Emily, I know that you wanted to, when I asked you to do this, you said, I just want to come on and do 5 minutes about the cutest men. So what I'm going to do is find a funny game show song.
We're going to play Hot or Not.
And put it in. And I'm going to give you 1 minute on the clock to name the hottest guys in the NFL. Rapid fire. On your mark.
Wait, I'm not ready. I haven't prepared for this. Okay, Jimmy G, all-time fave, number 1. Also have a soft spot because he started on the Patriots. But he is still very, very attractive. Okay, hot take, but I don't think Joe Burrow's that attractive.
I agree.
That's my hot take. Everyone's really into him. I think he's just looks like he's trying too hard. Saquon Barkley, beautiful smile, beautiful eyes. Big fan. How much time do I have left? How many can we go over?
30 seconds.
Oh my God, 30 seconds. Okay, Jalen Hurts, big fan. I don't really like the Eagles, but I do like him.
That's my QB.
Yeah, he got you a lot of points last night, didn't he?
He did okay, but he'll do better next time.
10 seconds, McGruber.
Oh, my other one was T. Higgins. I think he's really cute.
And time. So we got 4 men in there. Not Josh Allen. Really, no Josh Allen.
He's a little bit thumb looking to me. A lot of guys that are like, everyone, like players that everyone thinks are really hot, like everyone's really into Travis Kelce. He gives off thumb vibes to me.
In Travis Kelce's Wikipedia photo, he has 2 small hoop earrings, and I hate that on men.
I'm wearing 2 small hoop earrings right now. What do you think?
Yeah, but you're gorgeous. Travis Kelce, again, thumb-like.
I'd also like to just go on record as part of the reason I wanted to play fantasy football was to give me something to talk about with hot men who are stupid. And they don't really have that much going for them up in their brains, but they're really hot. And now I've got to weigh in. So
have you used this to your advantage in the last 2 years?
It's a tough gamble to flirt or not to flirt using fantasy football as your way in, because you have to kind of take a calculated risk of how much mansplaining you're willing to endure. You know, there's the classic, like, oh my God, help me set my lineup. Like, and then you can talk to a guy very easily and they're going to be so into it and be like, oh, well, first thing you got to do is check to see who's on their bye week this week. And like, you know, you got to let them explain it a little bit and play dumb. But then it's like, yeah, obviously I'm going to check who's on their bye week and like not play them this week. Like, I don't actually need to hear your dumb opinion unless they're very, very hot. So it's really a calculated risk.
I've been in the exact same position. And it's like, I very quickly superseded their level of knowledge, like within the first couple of months.
Quickly, you're like, oh, I know more than you do. Like, I don't need this shit.
It is such an ick for me on Hinge when guys are like, the sign of a healthy relationship is a good flirt to roast ratio. I hate that.
I don't like when they're too honest on Hinge and like they're too like just straight up about it like that. When they're like, good communication, we can share food and a healthy dose of banter. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
And you let me finish my fries.
Or when they go, my love language is tacos. No, there are 5 love languages. Words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, gifts, and acts of service. Tacos is not a fucking love language.
Okay, but I also don't want them to list the actual love. Like, if they're like, my love language is words of affirmation. I'm like, you took this too seriously.
So do either of you need help with your lineups?
Well, I'm curious for your advice about my 2 running backs and whether you think I should play them both. I am playing Braithwaite next week.
Oof, he has a really good team.
He has a really good team. And I was so mad because he was right in front of me in the draft. And I really wanted to draft Tyreek Hill because he was like averaging number like 7, 8 in the draft order. And I had number 6. And I had my eye on Tyreek Hill. And then number 5 right ahead of me, Braithwaite sniped him up. And I had to last minute swerve.
There's always one player every year that like whoever gets him is automatically going to win. And I think that player was Tyreek Hill this year.
He got 44 points last week. That's insane.
It's not fair.
Like, he had 2 players last week that got 0 points. Was that him? Someone had 2 players that got 0 points.
That was him.
And he still like crushed whoever he was playing. I don't even remember, but it's because I'm looking at week 2.
Well, but also because his defense special teams got 35 points. So that's a fluke.
Yeah, I was looking for a new defense for this week because ZWAC suggested playing defense week to week. And so I put in a claim for the Lions as well. Man, I must really like them.
I had the Eagles defense this past week, and they did fine. But it was hard for me because they were playing the Patriots, and I knew the Patriots offense was just not that good. But it was really hard for me to watch the game and like root for the Eagles defense, even when it was terrible for the Patriots.
That's how I feel about watching the Chiefs. I'm confused.
Yeah, I mean, I had Jalen Hurts as my QB, and my kicker is Philly too. And watching my guys, the Pats play them, it was hard.
Yeah, it's like betting against your own team. It's hard.
Maybe we should call Kenton, unless Alie, do you need advice on your lineup?
No, because I'm sitting pretty and my opponent sucks. So
Who's your future opponent?
you.
Oh, shit.
Aren't I playing you next week?
Are you?
Week 2, mommy's big spanking.
I should have learned to look at this up beforehand after I was severely betrayed.
Boy, am I glad you didn't.
Don't hurt me, please. This is all I have.
It's okay. We got the episode next week to recap. Great.
Just know that the way that this narrative is unfolding, if you even dare, the Lord will take your best player.
I don't think so.
Look at my track record. There's a bloodbath of Judases behind me.
But that's just like the first day of your period. It's always bloody at first. The season gets started and then it's fine.
Emily,
period talk.
On Sunday when we were with the boys, me and Alie were explaining to them about when you go and get a pap smear and they put the thing in your vahuha and then they crank you open. And we were talking about if you're lucky, you get the plastic one that's not that cold. But if you're unlucky,
one's so cold.
It's so cold.
And they put like a little Ziploc bag on it to make it so it's like clean, but it's just like wrinkly in your vagina.
Yeah, then there's just like little sharp plastic creases in my vagina.
Yeah.
And then they stick a COVID test that has actual toilet brush spikes on the end of it right up there. Andrew was like, what does that do? I'm like, they're taking cells off your cervix to see if they're cancerous.
Oh my God, I wish I could see their faces. You look like you're about to tell us a ghost story.
I am.
It's called His Terrible Week 1.
It was tough. It was a tough week, especially when, I felt good about every player on my roster, and every one of them that started had a bad game or got injured. And, that's just the fantasy life. If I didn't have anything else going on in my world, that would really devastate me. But, I do.
We were having a discussion earlier because I have Kirk Cousins and I don't really like him as my quarterback. It's not a good fit for mommy's big spanking.
He's a wholesome Midwestern boy.
So I put in a waiver for Deshaun Watson.
Wow. Of course it was you.
Don't worry. I already called her a hypocrite, so.
We've given her sufficient talking to.
Deshaun Watson had 20 points last week. Kirk Cousins had 16, and I consider that a win. Joe Burrow had 3? In what way was Deshaun Watson bad?
Exactly. Okay, so Joe Burrow had 3 points or whatever, right? Would you consider Deshaun Watson a better quarterback than Joe Burrow for fantasy?
I have never paid attention to any quarterback besides Patrick Mahomes. So I'm out of my depth here.
I would just say don't do any knee-jerk reactions. That's like a big lesson in fantasy is never go knee-jerk,
I know I'm always chasing the big point getters of the week previous, and then I end up just going back in time.
Exactly. Hindsight's 2020, but
are you having dinner?
Look, I had a long day.
Do you guys have any questions for Kenton about your teams or any comments?
Yeah. So back to the question that Kayla asked you last week about playing 2 running backs from the same team. I know in theory that's bad advice, but Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier both got tons of points this past week. So what do you think?
Well, I think we were talking about receivers from the same team, which I think is very different.
What?
Because what do you mean what?
Like running backs is a different scenario entirely?
They do different things.
Yeah, they two very different positions that do very different.
Don't talk down to me.
I'm just trying to help. This is like a new thing. There used to be like 10, 15 years ago, there was a running back committee, which is still relatively a new thing. Like it used to be, 10, 15 years ago, you had one running back on each team that was like the guy, and he did everything. So you would only ever have one running back from each team. If you ever had a backup or like another guy from that team, it's just because you were afraid your guy was going to get injured.
Yeah.
And then you'd have him. So yeah, this is like a new thing. But I mean, yeah, Tyler Algier looked really good. So it really it depends like on how the offense is. So the Falcons offense, their quarterback play is just so bad. And they obviously don't trust him that much
to actually throw it.
Yeah, so they're relying on the run a lot more. And that's why, like, they both Bijan Robinson was drafted because he can do anything at the running back position, but it seems like Tyler Algier, like, is kind of complimenting him in a really good way. It's kind of like last year with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. They were a really good 1-2 punch, in my opinion, as a Cowboys fan, and not in the opinion of most fantasy fans. It's just, you never know who's going to get the points. Because with running back, a lot of times you're chasing the touchdowns. And so it's like, who do you think is going to score the touchdowns is usually the most effective. But we're in a PPR league.
Wait, what's the difference between like a PPR league? Why does that?
Because you get points if they catch the ball and for the yards that they get afterwards. Like you don't just get points if they get a touchdown.
Yeah. So that's why wide receiver is so valued in our league, because we're a full PPR league, which is why I drafted Jamar Chase over Christian McCaffrey, which made me look like a genius this week. And I say that with full confidence because I read that article that I sent Alie, and I believe in him still, no matter what, because I'm going to stand strong.
This was a big week for Karma. Karma was the real winner this week.
No. Karma is a cat, as our icon Taylor Swift says.
You mean Mrs. Kelsey?
Mrs. Kelsey, how do you feel? She stole him from you. Your friends stole him from you.
I'm not the girl who drafts based on looks. I draft based on
sexual assault allegations.
Okay. Well, I guess you have to stand by your principles at some time. I'm just wondering if fantasy football is that time. And I'm really hoping that Deshaun Watson proves that he is just as much of a bum on the field as he is off the field. I would like to thank Emily Levine for being part of this episode. I think I forgot to thank Kenton last week, so thank you, Kenton, again. I also want to thank my coworker and friend, Billy Macuna, because he saved these files. They were corrupted from when we recorded, and we almost didn't have this episode. So thank you, Billy, and I'm sorry to Zoom for shit-talking so much that you decided to delete my files. All right, we're getting to the end zone here, so thank you for being part of my fantasy, and I will see you in week 3, baby.